Yeah, and your stories, I mean, they brought me to tears as I was just reading them, as your editor. But you had similar feedback from other people who you've shared early copies of the book with about it brings up their own memories. I mean, so even though you're showing in the process how to use a poem to create writing prompts and how to do that in such unique ways, your writing itself then has become a prompt, it feels like to me, to the writer or to the readers. They can go with it in so many directions. How do you see readers using the book?
Well, something just happened that it kind of affirmed what our dearest hope was. I just was visiting friends with my first copy of the book and showed it to them, very excited. And one of them asked if I would read a story out loud, which was the first time that had happened. And so I read a story out loud. And to my delight, both members of the couple each told spontaneously a story around the same prompt, their own story that just came up, and they were beautiful stories. And I thought, that's why we wrote the book. That's how I hope they read it. I mean, I use it. I hope that people read it and go, oh, I have a story. Maybe we should do this, or maybe I should pick a friend and do this. So that's the short answer.
Um, Darcy, do you want to add to that, or you guys ready to read a snippet?
No, nothing to add. That was beautiful, Penny. Thank you.
Oh, which one? I mean, I'm thinking of either our hand stories or beyond words, or what do you think? We earmarked some.
Yeah, so why don't we do the one related to hands and Rafiq Kathwari's poem, which is so delightful.
Great. That was number three. And in fact, if it's okay, I will read the poem and the prompt so that you get a sense of how we came up with the prompt. So this poem is a one-line poem. In fact, the title of the poem is longer than the poem. And it's one of our favorite poems by an author who I didn't know before, a poet named Rafiq Kathwari. The title is On Receiving Father at JFK Airport After His Long Flight from Kashmir. And the poem is, As I fling my arms wide, he extends his hand. So online, we wrote stories about a time you were changed by the culture you found yourself in, because that's what that poem directly brought up. We won't read those stories, but after that, we read what we wrote, and then we were talking about how that poem brought up hands, and we both came up with the idea of how about a prompt for our at-home writing, a story of holding someone's hand. And so those are the stories I'll read. Yeah, story of holding someone's hand. So I'll read what I wrote. These days, my stories of holding someone's hands are metaphorical. I have so many sick friends or friends in distress for various reasons. I find myself holding them in my heart, accompanying them with my listening, my sadness, my compassion. It is the beautiful, painful reality of love that friends will suffer and some will die. Of course, all will die, but not necessarily on my watch. And being a friend means bearing that suffering as a witness, as a companion, and by holding their hands in real and imagined ways. But today I will write in more depth about a story of Jim and me holding hands. After all, it is his birthday. He would have been 87 today. We held hands all the time, on every walk. I particularly love the feeling of being together in that simple, loving way. One summer, we vacationed again in Wellfleet on Cape Cod, a favorite place. That year, we splurged and stayed in an oceanfront cottage. The beach was right there outside our door, a few hundred yards away, and we took long oceanside walks every morning. I remember one particular morning. We were walking, holding hands, laughing, looking out at the ocean, same as always. A young man was walking towards us, yet far higher up on the beach. He veered in our direction and walked diagonally across the sand to reach us. When he approached, he said he had watched us many times walking on the beach and holding hands. He wanted to tell us how much that touched him. I was moved. Holding hands was so natural, it was automatic. I'm not sure I knew how special it was until it was mirrored back to us. It spoke of love and intimacy in a way I hadn't named before. It made me happy to be witness. Jim, who was much shyer, might have been embarrassed to be seen in this way. I don't remember him saying. It didn't stop us, thank goodness. We always held hands and we laughed a lot. I liked dropping hands to walk apart for a while, perhaps because a mountain path was too narrow or because being alone is as precious as coming back together. Each supports the other in the dance of life. Who reached for the beloved's hands? I have a feeling I was more the reacher, as I am naturally more expressive of emotion than Jim was. Yet it was our habit and a great comfort to be met in this way. Happy birthday, Jim. I honor our years and am grateful for the physical memory of our hands entwined on all those paths.
Mm. Thank you, Penny.
Thank you.
Well, I'll do my best to read this story without without choking up. Excuse me. A story of holding someone's hands. When I put my hands on hers, it was warm, surprisingly so, since the life that had lived in my mother for 93 years was barely a glimmer. It was like the last flare of a candle flame before it sputters out. I let my hand rest on hers for a few minutes. It was a hand that I had touched or held since infancy. It still had the elegance I remembered, despite the withered flesh and the recent bruising from blood sampling. I'm not sure she was aware of my hand on hers. She did not move or turn her head. Her closed eyes fluttered briefly. That was enough. She was in her own world now, on that final journey that would end a few days later. I like to think she was shifting through old memories, turning the pages of a well-curated photo album, smiling at this and that, and saying hello and goodbye to all the people that she had known and the sights she had seen. Packaging things up neat and tidy before she left, something she always did in her day-to-day life. I couldn't keep my hand on hers for long. The intensity of that connection and knowing this was the final time I would touch my mother, coupled with her seemingly urgent need to keep moving and not be distracted, made me pull my hand away. It was like standing close to a raging fire of emotions, of final goodbyes, of ruthless inevitabilities. You could only take it for a short time. I continued to sit by her bedside for another hour or so, my mind like hers, gently turning over pages of my own photo album of memories, accepting all of who she was at her worst and at her best. All is forgiven now. The slate has been wiped clean. We can just sit here. I smile and hold her in a misted gaze. No words are necessary or needed. We both know that everything will be okay.
Mm.
Mm.